Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I make all kinds of different travel videos, so make sure you go and check all those out and don't forget to subscribe if you like what you see. So this is going to be a video on how to plan a road trip in Sicily and sort of giving you a little itinerary of where we went and where you should go and what to do. Also, this is only going to be the southeast part of Sicily. We only went to a really small portion. There's the whole other side of Sicily where Palermo is, and there's lots of other places over there. So we went to Sicily for about 5 days. We flew in on the Thursday night. We had one whole day on the Friday in Catania, and then we picked up our car rental on the Saturday morning, and then we dropped our car back off on the Wednesday morning. So we had about 5 days in Sicily and 4 days on a proper road trip. So what we ended up doing is we ended up going straight to Catania without the car, and then we went back to the airport on the airport bus to pick up the car, and it was really easy and really quick on the airport bus. So I suggest doing that, so then you don't have to pick up the car and pay a whole day to have the car and you're not using it, and then also you have to worry about where to park it as well if you're staying right in Catania. So this video will be great for you if you're planning a road trip to Sicily and you sort of don't know where to start, don't know what sort of places to go to, you don't know the logistics of what sort of accommodation you should stay in or what car rental company to go with and all that sort of thing. So the car rental, which is the most important, we went with a company called Zest Car Rental, and this is like a car broker company. So if anything were to go wrong or anything like that, they would take care of it and you'd be covered. So that's why I went through them instead of booking directly through the car company. I don't think I could anyway. And it was really, really good as well, because when we arrived to the car rental company, it was Alamo that I'd actually booked the car through, and then we're like under a few different other car rental companies, but they were really good, really well organized. When we got there was a guy that came out and he was like, there's this mark here, there's this mark there, check the car yourself if you want to and point out if you see any scratches and stuff like that, so that they can note them down and take your own photos. Like, they were really, really good, and when we dropped it back off we had no issues at all. They just checked it and it was fine, because we didn't really make any damage. But that's also something I really worried about, renting a car in Sicily and Italy. There has been tons of stories about places like that ripping you off and saying you've done something to the car when you probably haven't, and that's why I also went through that car broker company, so that we had that extra protection. Oh, a little heads up, if you haven't ever driven in Italy, or you haven't really heard about the driving in Italy, the Italian drivers are crazy. Everyone's just full speed ahead. It's just every man for themselves over there, so just let them go, or just keep up with them at least, because otherwise you just get run off the road. People just want to get past and people will overtake, and it's just full on. Like, no one lets you go or anything like that. You just have to go. So next is food and what sort of dishes you should be eating in Sicily. I've done a whole other video on this. I don't know if it'll be out when I've posted this video, but it will be coming soon, or it'll already be out, and I'll post it above. So make sure you check that video out, because I've done a whole foodie video on food in Sicily. Next is accommodation. I did a mixture of Airbnb and just hotels on booking.com or B&Bs on booking.com. With some towns I found that there just wasn't really a great option with Airbnb, so there just wasn't what I was looking for in my price range. Like, for example, when we stayed in Ragusa, one of the towns that we stayed in, I really wanted a pool, so it's really hard to get Airbnbs with pools in like such a little small town, so we had to like book a hotel to do that and obviously pay a bit more money. And then in another town I ended up finding a B&B on booking.com that was just cheaper than all the other ones I found on Airbnb. So it's just good to look around at different websites and stuff like that. So I'll link below all the places that we stayed at as well. The weather, this is a great thing to just quickly touch on. So we went at the end of August to the beginning of September, and it was still really, really hot, like proper sticky, humid heat. So it's about 30 degrees, but it feels about 40. Pretty much I just wore dresses the whole time. Next, I'll go over the costs of pretty much what I've just spoken about. The car rental cost us £164.84, and that was for 5 days, and that included full insurance as well. Next is petrol. That cost us €26. We only had to fill up at the very end of our holiday before we dropped it back at the car rental place. So I think that's quite a good price for a couple of days. So the cost of food really ranged. You could get something as cheap as £8 for a dish, all the way up to like £15. It just really depends where you go and what you're picking. But you're probably best just to look on websites and look at people's menus. That's how I gauge how much food costs in other countries. Okay, so next is the itinerary. So as I mentioned at the very start, we went to Catania for 2 nights. So we flew in on the Thursday night and stayed one whole day, and then on the Saturday morning we went and picked up our car. I would suggest definitely doing like a Mount Etna tour. So Mount Etna is a giant volcano right next to Catania, and I think it's the biggest volcano in Europe. Really shop around and make sure you get one of those tours, because I swear I saw one for £35 online once I'd gotten there. And I sort of regretted that I didn't go on one, because I was like, you know what, we actually didn't really do that much that whole day in Catania. There isn't like a load to do, especially especially if you're someone who's been to a lot of European cities. It was a really pretty city and it had great food and it had a good atmosphere, but there wasn't like loads to do. There was a few amphitheatres and a few ruins, and there's like an old castle as well to visit, but then again, you can do that quite quickly. And also make sure you stay in the area where the fish market is. That's where our Airbnb was, and it was great because we were just walking distance from all these really cool restaurants, like fish restaurants, seafood restaurants, you know, out on the streets, and they had those colourful umbrellas through the streets, and it was just like a really good atmosphere, and it was so nice to sit outside on like a hot evening and have like seafood, and it's like people around and music, and it was just a really good vibe. And also, last thing I'll mention is make sure you get anything with pistachio on it, because there's a little town near Mount Etna called Bronte, and that's where there's meant to be the best pistachios in the world come from. So make sure you get something that's got pistachios on it, because they're meant to be amazing in Sicily. Okay, so on Saturday we drove to Ragusa. Ragusa is about an hour and 45 minutes from Catania, and we stayed at a hotel, like I said, with a pool. It was £100 a night, and I mean, it really wasn't worth it for the amount of money that it was. It wasn't anything different to an Airbnb or a B&B that you could have stayed at. The only difference is that it had quite a nice view, but if you see the picture, you know what I mean. So you got quite a nice view from there, and there was a pool, which we didn't actually go in because it was raining. So it wasn't really worth the money, I don't think, because I thought when we have breakfast and all that in the morning, it was going to be really nice, but it was really basic. So you probably could find a better one than I did, so make sure you look around. And I would also suggest getting a hotel or an Airbnb in Ragusa Ilba, which is the old upper town, because it's just a lot nicer and quainter from what I heard. The only thing is I never went down to the lower town, so I can't really compare the two, but from what I heard, it is a lot nicer. It was very quaint and old, and there was lots of different little restaurants, and there was just lots of people around. I think there was a bit of a food festival on as well when we went there. So we also had a really nice meat and cheese board when we were there, so make sure you go to that place. We also went to this park on the cliff of Ragusa. That was really nice to go to. There was barely anyone in there, and it was just really peaceful and had like quite a nice view as well. There's also meant to be a really fancy restaurant in Ragusa that's meant to be like the best in Sicily, I think, the best restaurant in Sicily. We didn't go have a look at it because I didn't really want to go to a super fancy restaurant, you know, when you get like tiny little portions of everything. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention whilst you're in Ragusa, you could also leave your car in Ragusa and then get the train to Modisa or Sicilia, I can't pronounce it. There's two little towns by those names that are nearby, and I think if you had a bit more time in Ragusa, or even a day like we did, you could get the train to them and visit them, because they're really hard to park in anyway, so that's why it'd be good to sort of park in one town and get the train to a few other towns. I think it was only about a half an hour train ride in between them, so it wouldn't be like silly to not drive. Next we drove to Noto. No, we didn't drive to Noto straight away. We actually went to a little seaside town called Marzememi. I think that was about a 40-minute drive, and I'd seen that it was a bit sort of busy and touristy, and the restaurants were a little bit overpriced, but I really wanted to go see it because it looked quite pretty, and it was a little bit touristy and a lot of people around, which I get. I think it was a Sunday or a Saturday, so it was very, very busy, and the restaurants were quite overpriced, and there wasn't a lot that had good reviews. All the ones that had quite good reviews weren't open until dinner time, so I was a bit like put off when I got there. And we went to a restaurant, and it was nice, but it was nothing special. So I wasn't overly fussed about it because it just had a few shops and restaurants, and then the beach wasn't really that nice either. It was a bit sort of dirty, so I wasn't overly fussed. You can go check it out for yourself. As I was saying before, we drove to Noto, and I actually wasn't going to stay in Noto originally. I really wanted to stay in this other beach called Fontane Bianche nearby, but the accommodations was really expensive there because it's meant to be one of the nicest beaches on that side of Sicily. So instead I was like, well, we'll stay in Noto so we get to see Noto, and then we also get to go to Marzememi, and we can go and spend a beach day the next day in Fontane Bianche. So we went to Noto. Noto was really pretty as well, but it wasn't like, there wasn't really much to see and do there, and I thought Ragusa was a lot prettier than Noto. So we just like walked around, had a drink, and it was a lot smaller than the other towns, and we went and had some really nice food at a place called Il Buco, and I had pasta alla norma, which is courgettes, tomatoes, and salsa ricotta pasta. Okay, and then the next day, which would be Monday by now, we drove to Fontane Bianche, which was only about a 15-minute drive from Noto, and that was our day to have like a beach day. We'll have a cheap day because we'll probably have to spend money on the sunbeds and the umbrella. and we don't really want to buy food at some beach club, like it'd probably be really overpriced. So we took our own little picnic, and we arrived at about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, quite early, and it wasn't even busy at all. And we went to a beach club called, I'll put it here on the screen, because they had their own car park, which none of the other beach clubs I don't think had their own car park. And the good thing was you didn't have to pay to park, which I was quite surprised by. Sunbed and umbrella was only £15 between the both of us, so that was really good, because in Monte Rosso in Cinque Terre in Italy, in the mainland island of Italy, it's £25 for the whole day. So it was actually quite a good price, I think. And we spent the whole day there. We didn't leave until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was really good that we got our own food and we didn't have to spend much money that day. And the beach was really, really nice. It was as nice as it looked in the photos. Almost white sand, really clear water. The water went out for ages and it was really, really shallow. The water was like bath water. It was so warm. So definitely go to Fontane Bianche and stay in Noto, because it's only 15 minutes away if you want to try and save money on accommodation, because the accommodation in Fontane Bianche was just probably 3 times the price as Noto. Noto was only like £55 for the Airbnb per night. No, it wasn't an Airbnb, it was just a B&B on booking.com. And then lastly, that night we drove straight to Syracuse and Ortigia. So Syracuse is like a old town on the edge of the sea, and Ortigia is like a walled city that sort of comes out onto the sea. So there's Ortigia Island and there's Syracuse along the coast. So we stayed in Ortigia Island because that's like the old town. I'm really glad that we actually spent 2 nights there, because there was quite a lot to see and do there, and we didn't actually do a lot of it, even though I say that. So we went to the archaeology park, which is in Syracuse. It's about a 35-minute walk one way, and we did it in the blistering hot sun, and I got there and I was absolutely dripping in sweat. So I wouldn't suggest that you do that. Get a pass to go on those hop-on, hop-off bus tours, because that would take you to all the different sites in Syracuse and Ortigia. And I think they're only about €5 for a round trip. Also, I have actually done about 3 different vlogs in all these different places. So if you want to see a bit more footage, make sure you go and check out all those vlogs. I'll link them all below and above and all that sort of thing. And then what you can also do is get like a boat tour to some caves as well nearby, which we didn't do. You can also go to the castle, which is on the end of Ortigia Island. We went there as well. There's also some really nice places to go for a swim on Ortigia, and you wouldn't think so, because it's like a walled city on the edge of the ocean. They've made these like platforms so that you can put your stuff and your towel on, and you walk down the steps and you can just get straight in the ocean, and it's all really shallow and calm. So there's lots of places to go swimming actually. And then lastly, I guess just eat lots of seafood and go to the markets as well. There's some really good markets in Ortigia. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope I've made sense. I haven't made a video sitting down like this in such a long time, so I feel like it takes me a little while to get into the flow of talking and actually making sense. So if you have any more questions about Sicily, put them below. I'm not a huge expert because we were only there for like 5 days, like I said, and we only visited quite a small part of Sicily. And as I said, make sure you go and check out all the vlogs that I did on Sicily as well, because that will help you as well if you're still needing help with planning your road trip to Sicily. And I should be coming out with my foodie video soon, or it's already out now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a like, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!